Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we are digging into a fascinating, well, and admittedly slightly gross topic. We're literally going underground to examine the failing infrastructure beneath older properties. Specifically, we are going to break down some highly informative recent data highlighting sewer problems in the historic, older homes of Highland Park. If you live in an older home, or hey, if you're even just thinking about buying one, the information we are about to go through is going to be absolutely crucial for you.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever wondered why older homes, with all that incredible charm and historic character, so often hide incredibly costly secrets right beneath your floorboards? It is a classic homeowner dilemma, right? The house looks absolutely beautiful above ground, but the infrastructure below is basically operating on borrowed time. The source material we are examining today maps out exactly why this happens and, far more importantly, how you can spot it before it turns into an absolute disaster.
So, let's start with Section 1. The early warning signs.
I want you to think for a second about the everyday plumbing noises inside your home, the ones you might just brush off as your old house settling or having character. You know, we often ignore these sounds or smells because they seem so minor, but in the world of plumbing, your house is actually trying to tell you something very specific. This perfectly illustrates the escalation from a minor annoyance to a major problem. Notice how it flows. You don't usually go straight to a catastrophe. It starts at step 1 with just a little gurgling sound from your toilet, or maybe water taking just a little too long to clear a drain. Super easy to ignore, right? But then we move to step 2, unpleasant odors, specifically near your floor drains. That means the problem is moving closer to the surface. Finally, if you ignore it, it hits step 3, full sewage backups. We go from a minor, easily ignored annoyance to an urgent, incredibly costly emergency that requires professional cleanup. The huge takeaway here is that these problems develop gradually over time.
Moving right along to Section 2. What causes the cracks?
Let's put on our detective hats and transition completely underground. We know the symptoms now, but why exactly are these systems physically breaking down in the first place? Well, the simple answer is that the infrastructure has just outlived its original lifespan. The core of the issue lies in the materials themselves. Over decades, the earth around your home isn't static. Soil naturally settles and shifts. When you combine that relentless ground movement with decades of constant moisture, you get physical degradation. We are talking about highly vulnerable, outdated materials. Things like deteriorating cast iron, cracking clay, and even corroding early plastic lines. When these materials crack or shift even slightly, they create tiny catch points. Suddenly, normal waste and grease gets snagged on these little imperfections, which progressively narrows the flow path of the pipe and drastically increases the likelihood of blockages.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the biological factor. It's not just physics and chemistry working against your pipes, it's nature itself. Tree root intrusion is a massive contributor to these failures. Roots act like thirsty underground monsters, and they can travel vast distances just to find these tiny cracks and aggressively exploit them for moisture. They literally breach the pipe walls and grow inside. This creates partial clogs that act like a giant net, and the data actually shows this becomes highly aggravated during wet seasons when groundwater levels rise. That essentially gives the roots a massive growth boost right inside your plumbing.
Which brings us to Section 3, the lateral line link.
This is a critical plot twist in our underground mystery, because sometimes you can inspect every single inch of pipe directly underneath your home and find absolutely nothing wrong. No way, right? Well, that's because the real issue lies entirely outside the immediate footprint of your house. Let's demystify some industry jargon here. The lateral. This is simply the connective segment of plumbing that links your home's internal sewer line to the main municipal system out in the street. Because it spans all the way across your yard, it is highly prone to misalignments and collapsed sections from soil shifting and heavy surface weight. If a material failure happens out here, you're going to experience persistent, recurring issues inside your home until this specific, exact segment is located and repaired. It is really the hidden weak link in the whole chain.
All right, Section 4, diagnosing the damage.
I want to shift the tone here, from the agitation of dealing with plumbing nightmares to the absolute reassurance of modern technology. Today, professionals use high-tech diagnostic methods that completely eliminate the guesswork of the past. When homeowners face a slow drain, the gut instinct is often to pour repeated chemical treatments down the sink. But that is essentially pouring your money down the drain as a blind temporary fix. It does absolutely nothing to solve a collapsed lateral or a massive tree root intrusion. So, the crucial point is comparing that flawed approach with the professional method, camera sewer line testing. Starting with a cleanout inspection, experts literally send a camera directly into the system to visually pinpoint exact blockages, cracks, and root damage. You aren't guessing anymore. You are seeing the problem with your very own eyes.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 5, Prevention and Smart Solutions. Because once the damage is pinpointed, you need modern, effective solutions rather than destructive old repair methods. The days of immediately bringing in a massive backhoe and tearing up your entire beautiful front lawn are thankfully fading fast. Homeowners today have access to incredible high-tech fixes, and the most prominent is trenchless rehabilitation. By relying on those precise camera inspections we just talked about, professionals can use targeted methods to repair, or essentially line, the inside of the existing broken pipe. It's a fascinating modern repair method that restores flow and prevents future failures. And the best part, the source clearly highlights that it does this while significantly reducing disruption to your property. It saves homeowners from the absolute nightmare of excessive excavation and totally ruined landscaping.
But of course, the best repair is the one you never have to make in the first place. Let's look at some really practical, proactive measures. First up, monitor seasonal slowdowns. If things back up every time it rains, you definitely need to pay attention to that. Second, avoid flushing items that don't easily break down. Seriously, please don't give those tiny cracks any extra debris to catch on to. And finally, schedule routine inspections for aging lines. Empowering yourself with these preventative steps ensures you take early action, which prevents dangerous property contamination and massively reduces emergency downtime.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. I really want to leave you with this final, completely vital thought. Before you invest in your next big landscaping project, or before you go all in remodeling that historic home, ask yourself, what condition is your underground infrastructure really in? Because, as we've clearly seen today, what you can't see below the surface can profoundly impact absolutely everything above it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, stay proactive, and I'll catch you next time.